Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely stream deck. For more information about the stream deck, the link is in the description below.
Good evening everyone and welcome to round 2 of the AOR Hype Season 20 PC F1 League. We are here under the floodlights at the Sakir International Circuit for the Bahrain Grand Prix as we bring to an end a crazy day of racing. We've come to know this place as a source of some fantastic action throughout the years. One of the few circuits on the calendar that I set my expectations quite high, being honest, both in real life and in the virtual presence. And it's not hard to see why. Take 2014 for example, one of the better races of recent memory, where Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg had their infamous duel in the desert, and as recently in 2019 when we saw Ferrari versus Mercedes and Charles Leclerc being cruelly denied his first race win. Here's the track then, 5.4 kilometers with 15 turns, 9 to the right and 6 to the left, with 3 DRS zones to promote the overtaking down to turn 1, turn 4 and down to turn 11 as well. And overtaking there will be, especially into turn 1, a major action zone for this race. You can see on your screen there the Renault and the Mercedes tussling, with the silver arrow coming out on top. If you can't quite get past into turn 1, you can always try again and get a good slingshot out of turns 2 and 3 and challenge once again on your opponent into the braking zone of turn 4, as demonstrated by the Red Bull and the Racing Point. Should be an easy one-stop for the drivers from the soft to mediums and vice versa. The hards are terribly slow, but there's a higher likelihood that we'll see them used compared to any inter or wet tyres like we saw last week. We saw a lot of it last week. We've gone from a doom and gloom of Albert Park in Melbourne to the hot and humid desert in Bahrain, and hopefully this race will be as good as the temperature is warm. My name is James Costello and I'll be one of your commentators for tonight's race. Joining me in the box this evening is my partner in crime, Jens. Jens, we've certainly seen a lot of action-packed racing today. I think we can add another race to that list.
Well, I certainly hope so, as we come here to the Bahrain International Circuit, a circuit, as you mentioned, we've seen some amazing battling on before, and, you know, this track, it just lines itself up for some amazing action, both in the race and in the qualifying, where we sometimes see the drivers battling it out for the smallest of margins come for pole position.
Yeah, definitely. 15 minutes gone in this qualifying session, and no time set just yet, but obviously that the drivers are just setting their bank elapsed times and whatnot. Interestingly, a mixture of softs and mediums being used for the bank elapse. Calvin, Ulas and Andrea are all on the medium tyres to set their first laps. But yeah, and I mean, second race of the season, still expectations quite high for some of the drivers. Still get to see a few drivers in action. Unfortunately, only 14 drivers today, but you know, Bahrain doesn't need the full capacity of drivers. Bahrain delivers whether we have 10, 14, 18 or even the 20 full-man grid. As long as these drivers can get close to each other, the racing is usually top-notch.
Yeah, you certainly must say, and you have to remember, in this season, there are 22 races and we've only completed one, so if you've had a bad one for the first one or you've been unable to show for the first one, you can always come back here at the second or even maybe the third round and still have a chance at the title come the end, because with 22 races there is so much more to play for within the races when you kind of miss one or you do bad in one of them. But the fight will as always be tough at the top. As you can see, Paris there in the banker lap there with the fastest time just for now, joined by Kevin at the top and with Soren as well. All drivers who had good times and good finishing positions in the first Grand Prix, along with Kimi's as well up there, and that's just the top 4. Then you have further down the drivers on the medium tyres already also putting in some quite okay times compared to the soft runners.
You've got to mention though that in the next 3 races, 2 of them are completely brand new to these drivers. Obviously we do have Hanoi in Vietnam next round, next weekend, and then in round 5 we have the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort. Obviously a track not new to Formula 1, but new to obviously these drivers and league racing in general. So drivers might want to get those points in early and at tracks that they've had more experience with. And Bahrain is definitely a circuit like no other. And even with 14 drivers, you know, the drivers that don't usually get the upper echelons of the points, and some drivers that are here today that haven't been here yet, last week I should say, there's definitely chances for them to put their points on the mark, or put mark on the board, I should say, like Soren, who wasn't here last week, or Alessio, who wasn't here last week. Obviously drivers that failed to finish, like Scrippi and Ulas. Ulas causing the safety car, I'm pretty sure, last time out. That caused that chaotic ending, where we saw Camille obviously take the victory on virtue of penalties. But yeah, the top one. Camille's here, Paris is here. Unfortunately, Presneda, who finished, I think 4th or something, or maybe even 3rd last time out. Unfortunately, he's retired from this season due to esports commitments. And yeah, also FK Gaming isn't here today because he's broke both his arms. So best wishes to him, and hopefully he can recover in due course, because that sounds a bit nasty. It's hoping that Tom97 and his teammate can put a good performance into the Alfa Romeo gang and get some good points on the board.
And speaking of Tom97, he didn't have the best race out last week. Did score 1 point though, down in 10th place. Currently up in 7th place here with just about 11 minutes to go. Set his time on a set of soft tyres. Although 2 laps old and only a 127.1, it is quite possible that he's gotten one of them invalidated and then the other one just taking it nice and slowly, or the other way around, and now he's just trundling around trying to see if he can squeeze something out, or if he's just gonna come in and just wait it out for a bit before coming out in the final couple of minutes of the session to set his best time possible. He of course will want to get the team of Alfa Romeo as far up the grid as possible now that FK Gaming isn't there to pick up the other part of the points for the team. But yeah, of course, we hope that Tom's teammate FK Gaming is able to come back in due course and is able to get some points once he returns.
I didn't even see this. If you look at the qualifying times, we've already dipped into the 124s.
Oh my, yeah.
And even if you're looking at the gap to first position, the top 3 are separated by just over 1/10 of a second. Paris, Kevin, and Soren, who obviously wasn't here last week, but we do know of Soren, and we do know that he is quality on his day. Just hasn't been as consistent as I probably would have liked to, but this season could mark a turning point for the AlphaTauri driver, and considering he's only a 10th half division apart at the moment, things are looking pretty decent for the French driver as we approach the halfway mark in this qualifying session. But drivers are now coming out on his lap, Soren also on his lap, and Kimi's also in P4, just a few tenths adrift with a 125.3. And then the times behind are a bit distant because obviously Andrea, Calvin, Ulas, they've all set their best laps on the mediums. Still a fair few drivers without lap times. 1, 2, 3, 6 drivers, and that includes last week's race winner Camille down in P13. The McLarens need to get on the board sooner rather than later, because I don't think the back of the grid is where they had planned to start this race.
Now you have to remember, these are only the banker lap times. We haven't seen the drivers put out the top performance. And oh my, Soren going up almost on provisional pole position before being bested by both Kevin and Paris there. Oh no, only by Kevin, but splitting himself from Paris by 2,000. It was 1,000 just before, but the game apparently decided to add 1,000 there just as Kevin came in with a lap time there. So Soren there almost on the pace with last week's pole sitter, and I'm sure that Camille will also be up there once he is able to put in a lap time. But Kevin there coming almost out of nowhere. He started 6th last week, so it'll be interesting to see what he'll be able to do this weekend, and certainly with that time that is showing something.
Yeah, what, nearly 3 tenths ahead, dipping into the mid 124s. This grid definitely is impressive, even though we don't have the attendance we had in mind, as that was Alessio jumping up to P4 on the medium compound tyres, just over a second behind the provisional pole sitter. But obviously he's the highest driver who set their lap on the medium tyres. Not too shabby of a lap time, and considering the lesser grids, drivers who might want to start in the mediums might get a chance to not just do that, but also qualify inside the top 10, which will definitely boost their strategies and whatnot, and definitely leave them in good stead towards the Grand Prix. And obviously we could see a lot of drivers opting for that medium strategy, whether it's just for bank laps or whatnot. But Alessio definitely on the pace so far, but obviously if you want to challenge a pole, you need to ditch those mediums and go onto the softs.
Yeah, certainly you're not going to be able to set a pole position on the medium tyres, but that reverse strategy is able to be powerful on this track if you nail it just right. We've seen that time and time again in AOR, and not just in AOR, but in plenty of other places as well. If you just can nail that reverse strategy, you can really pick up some places as the soft tyres fall off the pace at the start, or the 1/3 mark through the Grand Prix, where you'd normally switch on to the medium tyres. But
what about you, Jens? I don't know if my timing boards are wrong. Tom97 is on 5 lap old soft tyres.
yes, he is, and it is also his best tyre, interestingly enough, as he decides to come into the pits now. So is that an attempt at a long run during qualifying?
Maybe he's doing race practice, who knows?
Well, he must be, because doing 5 laps on a soft tyre is normal in qualifying. Well, it's normal on an intermediate or a wet tyre during the wets, as we saw last week, with some of the best times being set on 3 or 4 lap old tyres. But a 5 lap old soft tyre, it's not what you're going to set your best time on, but he must have been doing some race practice, or at least doing some long runs to see what his tyres are able to do in the race. So that's going to be interesting to see what he's gathered from that, and if it can gain him an advantage come the race, as there's just about 5 minutes to go of the qualifying session, as we're seeing most of the drivers into the pits finalising their fuel setups and whatnot before coming out for that final mad dash to see who will be on pole position.
Although it's unlikely, considering there's 5 drivers teeing up to set their first lap times, imagine if none of them improve and Tom has to start the race on those tyres. That will be catastrophic, to say the least. Hopefully, though, for his case, he'll be able to not just... he'll be able to improve on that set of tyres and cause no trouble. But yeah, literally everyone outside are in the pits, apart from Kevin, who's literally the only driver currently on the track at the moment.
Yeah, out there in the clean air, as one of the Renaults are currently making their way out of the pits, but Kevin is going to clear him well before they're out. So coming into turn 1, taking the right-hander there, braking hard, and then finalising on just clipping that apex in turn 2 before going flat out down the second DRS straight. There's of course 3 on this circuit. Then braking hard, coming into sector 2, just tricky as we see there in the traction zone, really not getting it down properly, but through the S as he goes, then down the hill, coming hard braking into turn 8 before coming down to that tricky double left-hander of 9 and 10. They're braking downhill whilst turning, trying not to lock up on the left. He succeeds in that, then opens the DRS for the second or third time, however you want to count it, coming down the third straight, then braking between the 150 meter ball, coming in the final part of sector 2, coming up to that double right-hander where we've seen so much action before. Then through the right-hander there, coming down into sector 3. He doesn't improve enough to be purple through there. That's interesting to see, as he's now coming down into the final, technically 2 corners, but that final kink doesn't really count, as he decides to come into the pits instead of completing his lap.
Leaving it late though, only 2:40 left on the clock. Hopefully he'll be able to get in and get out in enough time. And he actually has to wait for his teammate of Calvin to get out of the pits before he can be served by the AI pit garages. So he's leaving it tight as Kevin as a pole sitter. And obviously if he can't get out again, that leaves obviously him in very much danger from the drivers who are potentially challenging him for pole position, like Paris, like Soren. Maybe Kimmy's can find a few more tenths in there. I mean, Alessio is now back on the soft tyres as he comes out now, and given his pace on the mediums, he could potentially challenge up there. And obviously the other racing point of Calvin had a pretty decent weekend last time out as well. So, you know, still that P1 for Kevin isn't looking so safe at the moment, with 1 minute and 40 left on the clock. And can Paris potentially get his second pole position in a row? We don't have long to find out.
No, as we're coming into the final 1.5 minute, Tom 97 is on the medium tyre, so he's not going for the pole position. He's maybe trying again to just get a couple of laps in on the mediums to feel how they feel. As he's looking like he's hoping to start outside the top 10 with the free strategy choice, but he will be the first driver to come across the line, although the checkered flag has not fallen yet, so there is still time for him to set a new lap time, but he of course won't have time to pit and come out on a soft tyre, so he won't be able to battle for the pole position. Brownie retiring. I think he might have stopped somewhere in the final sector or the end of sector 2, but carrying on for him. Calvin starting his lap. The Mercedes of Scrippi, I believe, came across the line to start their lap. Then it will be Paris now coming across the line for a time. It's provisional pole position, but he has time to go for a new lap. I don't know if he wants to. The other Haas of Warren coming across the line, starting their lap. Then there was a McLaren, I think that was of Camille starting their lap. Yes, it was. Then there'll be Alicio. He'll be starting his lap. 20 seconds to go for him. He'll have enough time to cross the line to start the lap.
Kevin doesn't. Kevin doesn't have enough time.
Kevin won't. Andinator invalidates his lap time. He'll start no higher than 7th, I believe. I don't think he'll have time to set a new lap time. Soren now. Soren still going, still flying out. The checkered flag has fallen now. Red lights down there, you can see them. Opens the DRS now. He hasn't invalidated his lap time. Coming across the line, it won't be more than 3rd place for him. Then it'll be not Calvin, it would be Kevin, but he has come into the pits. Then it'll be Kimmy's now. Kimmy's is going to pit. Kimmy's won't be able to start higher than 4th. Then it'll be Calvin. Calvin now coming in to the final couple of corners, locks up on the right hand tyre. Then he'll be coming down flat out now, opens the DRS. What will he be able to do coming across the line? It'll be no higher than 4th place. Then behind, I think it's Andinator coming across the line. No, it's Scribby coming out to 3rd place. Then it'll be Tom behind. Tom goes into the pits. Then it'll be the Haas of Ron, invalidated his lap time. Then it'll be Camille coming in 13th now. He'll go into the pits. Camille will start no higher than 13th, probably. Yeah, that will be it, because Failer is in the pits. Then it'll be who will cross the line next. I think that'll be Alicia, but his lap time has been invalidated. And therefore, what you're seeing on your screen is now your final standings. And yes, from Alicia there, that would have been pole, but it won't be, as it was an invalidated lap time for him. As now we're just waiting for the remainder of the cars to just finish round and complete the laps and the game to figure out what to do. But what you're seeing on your screen there is your final standings. No one will be able to complete a lap time anymore. But Paris sets it on pole for the second race in a row. Well done to him. He has of course just gone out there and just perfected his qualifying setup and has really just perfected this track and just knows what to do when you just go flat out on the track. As we're coming up to just see how they will line up for the race in just a couple of minutes, as we're waiting. If we can get to see the final standings, that would be nice. As we wait.
I'm surprised that 4 drivers didn't set a time.
Yeah.
To be honest, the McLarens had a dismal qualifying session. Although it might have been planned. I did see Jan Failer and Camille, especially at the end, ditch out of laps. So it wasn't like they just couldn't get a lap on the board. I think it might have been a slight tactical decision for the McLaren to start outside the top 10. We'll wait and see if that strategy pays off. We obviously know that especially Camille is incredibly quick in race trim, and Failer is as well, given particular circumstances. Last week didn't really go to plan for the German driver, but 14 drivers for this grid. Paris again on pole. The last thing he wants to do now is repeat what happened last week and lose the win due to penalties. So hopefully for him, he can keep it clean, and then he can get the first race win of the season that I missed out on last week. But there's a lot of challenges from behind, and don't forget the drivers starting with the mediums as well. Strategy will play a big part in today's Grand Prix. As you look at the tyres, Alessio, Andinator, Tom and Ulas all on the medium tyres that they set their best lap on, mind you, so they're all used medium tyres, but 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, all on the hards. Okay. Well, my intro was wrong, but we all see the hard tyres. As for all the drivers are on the hard tyres.
Yeah, we're seeing the real colour palette here. All of the tyres in use today, except for the wet tyres. That's just all we need. But yeah, we see Paris and Kevin on the front row there, then Scrippy and Soren, then Calvin and Kimmy's, then Alicia in 7th, Andinator takes 8th, Tom in 9th and Ulas in 10th, all starting on those used tyres. 4 of them, the 4 last ones, starting on the used mediums. Then Warren, Brownie, Camille and Failer. Oh, the 2 McLaren drivers in last place, they don't want that. But all outside the top 10 are starting on those hard tyres. So everyone is trying to do the reverse strategy of each other. So the hard tyres are trying to go very far in the Grand Prix and try and get that mad dash, almost do qualifying laps at the end on soft tyres. The medium runners are going along in the race and taking soft tyres to the end, and the soft runners are maybe going quick at first and then going on hards, or taking them long and going on the mediums. We don't know. There's plenty of things you can do here, and especially with the very different strategies opening up, as we're seeing some of the drivers here starting on used mediums, as the game is suggesting a 2-stopper. But I don't know how applicable that is for the hard starters. Maybe for the soft runners, they might want to do a 2-stopper, but that is all to come as they are lining up on the grid. Paris coming first into his box, as I'm sure he would like to do for the next 29 times.
It definitely feels like it's going to be a race of 2 halves. And obviously we'll see drivers split. And with the nature of this circuit being very high overtaking, strap yourselves in, folks. We should be in for a very fascinating 29 laps here at the Sakhir International Circuit. And when the 5 red lights go out, we are underway for round 2. As a brilliant start from Kevin there, already wheel to wheel with Paris, the pole sitter, and with the inside line at turn 1, as there's chaos in the background with drivers trying to find space in towards turn 1 as it goes side by side, but Paris hangs on with that P1 still intact. Scrippy P3 ahead of Calvin, who's made up places at the start. Soren's had a bit of a stinker down to P6 in the AlphaTauri. That's Alessio and Andrea going wheel to wheel down towards turn 4. Camille already up into P9 after starting down in 13th, and well, very good start from last week's race winner, already up into the points paying positions. But everyone looked like they got a very clean start, and obviously a few winners and few gainers at the start, a few losers as well, who last down to P13. But yeah, at the start, at the front, it's as you were, with Paris still leading from Kevin, who tried to move at turn 1, but he couldn't find a way.
Now looking at the front, Kevin not able to do. Paris almost disappearing into the distance, but further behind we have Soren maybe trying to go for the move. No, further behind, everyone sneaks behind each other just for now, maybe trying to line up a move as we're coming into Sector 3 here, almost completing the first lap. Very quick here in the race trim, but now Kevin still behind Paris, trying to just find some of that slipstream to get back up to him, maybe trying to use some of his ERS. He's just trying to stay within that second until lap 3 so he can get the DRS. Of course, it won't be activated before lap 3, so he can't really do much other than to just try and stay as close as possible. Further behind, some drivers doing things. I'm seeing things jump around on my screen. I think we're having a bit of desync, but Scrippy there trying to go for the moves on Calvin, I believe, or that might be my game tricking me, as DRS has been enabled apparently, and Scrippy now trying to go for the move on Calvin, not able to do so. Further behind, Alicia still in 5th.
Oh dear.
I do not know what's going on.
The timing boards are playing fun and games.
Yes.
I think they've sorted themselves out.
Possibly, as Calvin in 3rd place isn't close to Kevin. I'm trying to figure things out right now. The timing boards are playing tricks with us. The game clearly isn't very happy, as
I think the gaps are not right, but the positions are.
Yeah, looks like it. We'll have to just look at the mini-map to try and find where the gaps are smallest. Soren here close to Kimmy's, but doesn't really look like he's close enough to be able to go for any moves just yet, as we're finishing the second lap. That's lap 3 apparently, unless I've completely lost track and the game is right, which I don't believe. I do still feel I have all my senses correct, but drivers now coming on to lap 3. Let's hope that's right. And it looks like the gaps have finally settled down and the desync is done, as it looks like the DRS has now been enabled. Maybe. Yes, it has, as the drivers are now utilising it. Kevin not close enough to Paris in 1st. What about Scrippy to Calvin? No. Further behind, anyone going for the move now that the DRS has been enabled? Doesn't look like it. Looks like everyone is just able to stick behind each other. But coming in to Sector 2 now. That's that tricky left, right, before coming into the tricky left-hander, before coming onto the back straight. Anyone wanting to go for the move into that tricky left-hander? Doesn't look like it. Then onto the back straight, opens the DRS, but still the gaps are quite big and not close enough to go for any moves.
I definitely feel like this, as I said before, this first stage of the race will be where drivers just settle in and, you know, focus on the strategy aspect of the game, and just make sure they can keep their tyres in good shape to when they have to pit, especially the soft runners. They're going to have to elongate their stints if they want to go on the mediums, or just do less laps than the hards. And then, when everyone pits and whatnot, we should be able to see the race truly come alive. But Paris is under threat from Kevin. With DRS now, might have got a chance to get the move done into turn 1. But strategically, 6 in behind the Haas driver, and as we said in the intro, could potentially get a good run out of turn 2 and 3 to jump ahead of him into turn 4, as that is Calvin off, massively off, out of turn 3. He must have had an issue somewhere through turn 2 and turn 3. He's lost positions because of it. Scrippy now up into the podium places ahead of Kimmy's and Soren, and Calvin settles down to 6th. I have no idea what happened to the racing point, but I just saw him on the mini-map, definitely in the position he shouldn't have been. and he's lost position because of it.
Yeah, you can see it doesn't look like he's at contact with anyone since his front wing is still intact, so he might have just had a moment coming out of the first couple of corners and might have gone off the track there, but clearly lost some positions. But his teammate Kevin up into second place, still trying to pressurize Paris and maybe try and go for the move sooner rather than later, as that dirty and hot air behind will not be doing his tyres any favours, as Kevin and Paris has made quite a gap down to the rest of the field, 2.3 seconds from Kevin down to Scrippy in third. So these two drivers just in a league of their own, just for now at least. But further behind, maybe some moves will be able to be made unless Kevin can find a way into turn one. No, he got close. Almost looked like he wanted to go for that move, but ultimately decided not to go for it. As there, we can't get the traction down, and has a small drift coming out of turn 3 down towards 4. Able to go for the move? No, did have the DRS, but not able to go for the move. Further behind, no one is able to go for the move. Still just the gaps are a bit too big just for now, but Kevin will be hoping that he can stay close coming onto the back straight as they're coming out of turn 8 before they come down the hill once again, just over that small crest before the downhill left hand braking zone. Now onto the back straight. Kevin is close to Paris, but is he close enough? Opens the DRS, doesn't use any ERS. He has used quite a lot. He's down to 40% through the braking zone. What about Paris? He's down to 30 and he's out of the braking zone there, so that is not the best. None of these drivers have that much ERS left, so they'll have to just save a bit here as they're coming on for lap 6 of this race, still on their used soft tyres, none of them having pitted yet, of course.
The top two in a very good position as his yellow flag somewhere, and
Ulas spun round
on the penultimate straight. Obviously he retired
drivers pitting
last time out, and we do have some pitters, Soren and Calvin. But as I was going to say, Paris and Kevin are in a good position as they can control their own pace really and just tag along with one another. The last thing they want to do is squabble and bring like Scrippy and Kimmy's, and obviously Soren and Calvin were involved there before they came into the pits, and bring them into play. They have 2 seconds gap, more or less, to Scrippy, who's holding up Kimmy's as they go on in the middle sector. So obviously if them two just control their own pace and just carry on keeping the gap to the drivers behind, they can just surge on and just carry on these soft tyres for how long they want, and then their race probably spring into a bit more action once they pit. And judging by Soren and Calvin coming into the pits on the previous lap, they might be soon, the Haas garage and the Racing Point garage might soon be called into action. You'd assume if they'll pit on the exact same lap, although Kevin might want to try and get the undercut, or Paris might want to try and cover the undercut, as it were, on Kevin. But as he comes through the final corner now, see if the direction changes, they dart into the pits. No, neither of them decide to go into the pits. And behind them, no, none of the soft runners coming out. The top 4 are the only drivers on the softs. Kevin making a move once again, but yeah, as I said, doesn't want to make that move. Doesn't want to lose time to Paris.
Tom just going for the move on Camille there, down the inside with the DRS. Well done there. That was a nice driving from there, having the run, but just looking further ahead, no, still no battling there. But it looks like Camille will be trying to go back at Tom, but he just doesn't have the speed and the grip to do so. Of course, Tom on a used set of medium tyres and Camille on that fresh set from the start, but Camille isn't able to challenge even with the DRS. But Tom taking that 7th place with the DRS down the start finish straight, a move that we might see come a couple of times, not just from these two drivers but many of the drivers in the field. As further ahead, Kevin's still not able to get past Paris even with the DRS.
It was a few laps too late for Tom. He was stuck behind the hard-driven McLaren. Obviously, he's the leader of the hard tyre runners, of which There are now 5 of them, obviously, Calvin adding to that list. But yeah, Warren just behind the McLaren driver, then it's Jan Fehler around 3.5 seconds back. Behind him is the Red Bull of Brownie. So yeah, Tom 97, thankfully now with a bit of clean air, can surge on and try and get after like Alessio and Andinator, who are both on the medium tyres and are both seemingly catching the drivers from the softs. Alessio is right behind Kimi's, and you know what? We'll probably try and dart down the inside of turn 1 here. And there he goes. Lovely jubbly. That was as clean as a whistle there for the Ferrari driver. And Kimi's, I doubt, even with DRS, will have a chance to fight back due to the poor traction on those aging soft compound tyres. And it will want to swallow the Polish driver in the Renault right up. As Scrippy now leads this gang of 4. A Mercedes, Ferrari, Renault, and a Mercedes. But yeah, it looks like the soft tyres have run their course. And we should be seeing the 4 drivers, Paris, Kevin, Scrippy, and Kimi's especially, who's now got passed by Andinator as well at turn 8. Good move there from the Mercedes driver, although it is a little bit, it's made it a little bit easier, considering Kimi's didn't really want to fight for it. So you assume he'll be coming into the pits in due course.
Yes.
And look at Alessio. He's getting past the other Mercedes as well. So yeah, the soft tyres are pretty much dead. And they're going to need to come into the pits, otherwise, I mean, Alessio might be able to catch up to the top 2 if they're not careful.
Yeah, exactly. Paris and Kevin will certainly be looking behind and seeing the changes that's been happening, and they'll be thinking if it's too late to come into the pits, if they've already lost it, or if they really just need to go in now, because I think leaving it 1 or 2 laps more, I think they're really going to be under pressure as they both dive into the pits. Will they go into each other as they brake? No, they won't. They both come down to the speed limit of 80 kilometers an hour as the rest of the soft drivers also pit behind them. That means that Alicio now inherits the lead of Paris as they come out of the pits in, will it be 8th place? Yes, maybe. Will Soren be able to get them? It's going to be close. But yes, Paris are able to stay in 8th place, but Soren and Kevin battling it out behind there. Soren overtaking Kevin in the pit stops. So now Soren, if the positions will return as they were before, Soren has taken net P2 as Paris stays in that train of in first place of the people that has already pitted, as we're seeing Alicio taking the lead of the actual Grand Prix. But Soren making that undercut work, even though he's been 2 laps on his medium tyres already, as well as Calvin down in 11th now, being 2 laps on his hard tyres. Let's see what that'll be later in the race. That'll be interesting to follow there, if Soren will be able to keep it off of Kevin, if he can just stay in front there, even with the aging medium tyres, or if he'll have to come in one more time, or if he'll just sail down the field come the end of the race. But further ahead there, it looked like for a second Alicio was coming into the pits as he's just going very defensive from Andinator, behind Andinator, of course, with the DRS trying to find that slipstream of Alicio, but Alicio trying to move as much out of the way of Andinator so to not give him any slipstream behind.
Soren going on the medium tyres, he's on the 2-stop. There's no way those medium tyres can do the 3 laps he's already done as he gets past Paris, affirming the fact that those medium tyres are well up to scratch compared to the hards of the Haas driver. But the Haas man made it a bit difficult for him. And now Kevin, as I said, Paris and Kevin did not get involved in any action whatsoever, stuck behind one another. But now with another driver intact, maybe Kevin might try and fancy his chances against Paris, because these drivers don't have to pit again. Soren doesn't have to pit again either, but he's already done 3 laps on those mediums and has another 19 to come. Yeah, I wouldn't put money on, I'm not a betting man, but I won't put money on Soren getting to the end. I would assume that he will come into the pits in the last stage of the Grand Prix. So that move was important for him to get past Soren, or to get past Paris, to say, and get himself into a dose of clean air to pump in those lap times and completely clear these drivers, because obviously it's a risk pitting on the more aggressive strategy. Obviously having to make an extra pit stop, and it's got to make those medium tyres work for the next few laps. Unfortunately, he hasn't seemed to clear Paris, who's right still with him, and obviously we'll get that DRS down towards turn 1. So we'll see on board with Paris if he can actually try, well, if he attempts to get Soren back. He does have DRS, he's activating it now, as is Kevin right behind. He's getting closer, but yeah, you can see on the bottom right that he's not activating any ERS of sorts. So their race is still very much just a stalemate and just waiting on for the drivers ahead to make their pit stops. And the end of the Grand Prix should be quite fascinating with aging tyres and whatnot and differing strategies. Drivers coming through the field on quicker tyres, and obviously compared to the drivers who started high up in the Grand Prix but are on those aging hard compound tyres. So it should make the end of the Grand Prix very interesting. But yeah, it's not looking great for Soren at the moment. You'd assume he has to clear these guys and get going really. The fact that Paris is still within his DRS range, nearly 2 laps after he's passed the Haas driver, isn't giving me good vibes, and I don't think Soren will be too happy inside the cockpit, knowing that he just doesn't have the pace to clear these guys and get them out of DRS range.
No, certainly not. Just having them sit behind you, that will be quite the task to then having to clear them, since they are in the DRS and they have possibly in the next couple of laps the better tyres to you, as yours tyres will already be a bit aging, as he'll have to maybe come onto another set of mediums or onto a set of softs if he can pull them long enough, or maybe even if he isn't able to do so, he'll come onto a set of hard tyres, which would be a bit interesting to do so. But at least another set of medium tyres. As further behind, we're seeing battling now between Scrippy and Calvin. They're going absolutely flat out there as they're going side by side almost through turn 2 there, as now Calvin with the DRS on Scrippy. But it looks like Scrippy just has a bit more pace as he got the traction down a bit better. But that locks up. Oh, Calvin almost going into the back of him. But it looks like Scrippy is passed cleanly there. Calvin having to stay behind.
At the front of the field, we've kind of ignored the drivers for the past few laps. But obviously, at the pit stops and whatnot, and drivers getting overtaken. Further behind, like you just saw, Alessio still leads from Andinator, who are both on their medium tyres, and Camille has now re-overtaken Tom, which gives me the slight impression, as Warren now close up to the back of the Alfa Romeo as well, that the hard tyres might be in better shape than the mediums at this stage of the Grand Prix, as Alessio and Andinator both decided to come into the pit, so that definitely suggests that my suggestion was correct. Now Camille will take the lead of the Grand Prix. Tom 97, interestingly, stays out, using that DRS to benefit, you'd assume, but here goes Warren now, darting down the inside of Tom, to take second place in this race, although Provisional still wants to get this move done. Tom makes him work for it though, but round the outside of turn 3, and he's got that move done very nicely indeed. Tom tried to defend, but again, those medium tyres are not in as good shape as the hard tyres now, and Tom will probably come into the pits in the next few laps or so. Else he'll probably lose a heap of time to the drivers he was originally facing. But yeah, lap 13 of this race, not even at half race distance yet. Soren's still yet to clear the drivers behind him on those medium tyres. Yeah, it's now Camille who started in P13 in this race, and obviously last race winner. He is now in the current lead of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, and looking behind Paris now, in 7th place, Soren, of course, just in front of him, as you mentioned, on his, what will soon be aging medium tyres, but Paris still able to follow within that DRS, so that means that once the drivers in front comes into the pits and change onto their next set of tyres, whatever that will be, I will presume either the mediums or the soft tyres compared to how long they're able to go on their tyre, and then Paris will be going back into the lead unless Soren is able to clear him quite rapidly now, but it doesn't look like that he is able to do so. So Paris will go up into second place once everyone has come into the pits, and then he'll regain first place most likely once Soren has come in maybe about 5 or 6 laps compared to what the other drivers on the medium tyres have done, although his tyres were fresh out of the pits whilst the others were being driven on a bit in qualifying, as we've seen now Alicia, Animator and Tom come into the pits, and we're only missing Brownie, Baylor, Warren and Camille, all on 13 laps old hard tyres, to come into the pits, and then we'll be back to where we were before the pit stops, although with a couple of changed positions.
Yeah, but look where Alessio and Andre have come up. They've come up right behind the battle for P8, which in theory is the battle for P4. After the top 4 come into the pits, Tom will more than likely start gaining as these guys get tucked in the dirty air and whatnot, and won't be able to go at full throttle 100%. As you assume they'll be battling as well. Alessio already eager right behind the Renault of Kimi's, who we did get past earlier in the race, although now on the same set of tyres, it's more of a level playing field, but those 4-lap fresher tyres will be of benefit for the Ferrari and the Mercedes driver of Andretti, who's right behind the Ferrari, mind you, as they go on to the start-finish straights. As there's 3 drivers ahead, still stay in position. They're about very close behind them. There's Scrippi, Calvin, Kimi's, Alessio and Andrea. All these guys from Soren to Andrea covered by just over 4.5 seconds. So, and this obviously is a battle for the provisional leader of the Grand Prix, with 8 drivers separated by just about 5 seconds. You know, if these drivers can keep battling and whatnot, we should be in for a dramatic ending to the Grand Prix. Obviously, bearing in mind Soren will have to pit again, and of course we have the 4 drivers yet to pit will come on and be on the fresh medium tyres. Camille especially is looking very handy on those hards, and given the pace we saw last week, he should be pretty nifty on those medium tyres as well. So a lot of excitement should be coming towards the end of the Grand Prix, and I can't really put my finger on who's going to finish where in this Grand Prix.
No, it's very hard to do so, because we're seeing all these drivers on, well, both differing strategies and the same strategies as everyone else. As Scrippi now, I believe the 3rd driver to get a time penalty. We have Alicia, Kevin, and then now Scrippi, all with time penalties on a track not really renowned for being the toughest on the calendar, although clearly you are able to get penalties. As here Alicia goes for the move down in 10th place, as I believe that's Warren, the first of the hard runners, coming into the pits now for a set of medium tyres, as Alicia went for the move, and same did Andinator and Kimi's there battling it hard out just behind us, where we saw the move with the DRS as they're going side by side coming down to turn 4. There Andinator still on the inside, they're both on the hard tyres. Looks like Andinator got the position with the DRS and the inside line coming into turn 4. But Warren, the first of the hard runners pitting, coming out down in 12th place with the medium tyres strapped on. So now it's just Camille, Fail and Brownie we're missing. But of course we are seeing a lot of drivers very close to each other, and one small mistake could mean that 2 or 3 drivers jump up or fall down. So it's very much just trying to stay as close to the driver in front every single lap, and then try and go for it whenever you get the opportunity, because these drivers are seriously quick and seriously good at the tyre, fuel and DRS management. So you just don't want to miss your opportunity once you get it. But it'll be interesting to see, once they are so close to each other, what they're able to do, and if we're going to be able to see a surprise race winner compared to what you'd normally believe, as we're seeing now Jan Fehler come into the pits and strap on a set of medium tyres, probably to the end.
Unfortunately, Warren, as we mentioned, picked up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So unless he can perform some miracles, he obviously will catch up to the gang ahead. But obviously with that 5-second penalty, that will hurt him. In due course, Alessio making so many moves. He's a man on a mission today.
But look at Scrippi.
No mercy. Scrippi gets back past him there as Alessio tried the inside at turn 4. Scrippi tried to fight back, there's a gaggle of cars here and there's barely any space. Alessio trying to find which way to go, and look at Andrea trying to pounce on Calvin, but there's obviously no space. They're too wide in through here at the tricky turn 10. But yeah, this battle's really come alive on lap 17. Alessio was finding a lot of pace on those hard compound tyres. Obviously, 4-lap pressure compared to Scrippy, and that's Kevin getting a 3-second time penalty ahead, and he's also dropped off the tail of Paris, who is obviously now right on the back of Sovereign, who you'd imagine will come into the pits in due course, as will Camille and Brownie. Camille still heading the field on lap 18, and will come into the pits in due course. Obviously, his teammate came into the pits.
Oh, no, he doesn't.
Oh, no, he's not. He just went defensive the inside line. But can that stop Paris from getting past? We'll see, as his yellow flags in the
virtual safety car. Ulas retiring from the session. What has happened to him? He must have crashed out of, well, that's turn 13. So might have gone a bit too early on the traction there and just gone into the wall or something. As his car's now despawned, I'm not quite able to see what happened since he was quite far behind the field, not really close to anyone. But Ulas out of the Grand Prix. He was down in 14th on 8 laps old hard tyres, had come into the pits, but unfortunately weren't able to catch up to any fights. But virtual safety car deployed as we're now green again. Paris winning a bit on Soren on the restart here and on the virtual safety car itself, but it doesn't look like he's able to go for the moves. What about behind? As we have to remember, the DRS is enabled right after the virtual safety car ends. It's not like with the real safety car where you have to wait 3 laps. Here it's immediately back on. So if you've gained or lost a bit, you'll immediately feel the effect. But now Scrippy, further up the road, is close to Alicio. But Calvin is close to Scrippy, and Andonata is close to Calvin. So it's all so close. Everyone has the DRS on each other, but here we go, Andonata going for the move even without the DRS, but no, isn't able to hold it down the inside. Further ahead, we have to look for Paris on Soren there. Paris goes for the move, what will be the professional race lead there, coming into turn 1. They're going side by side. Paris on the hard tyres, Soren on the mediums. Both a bit old tyres there. Soren on 12-lap old medium tyres. They'll really be feeling that now. But Paris with the DRS takes the provisional race lead, as Camille and Browning will be coming into the pits in the next couple of laps. But Paris with the DRS takes what is 3rd place now, but will be the lead, as Kevin behind now is catching up to Soren. Soren must really be feeling those medium tyres now. They must not be feeling great. 12 laps, and you can really see how the drivers just lock up in that downhill braking. Soren with the DRS on Paris, but Kevin also with the DRS on Soren. Let's see, is he able to close up? No, Soren is neither. Anyone behind able to go for the moves? Doesn't look like it. They all stay in line as they've done for the last couple of laps. Is Soren able to catch up to Paris? It doesn't look like it, as they're going to be coming down to the DRS detection point soon. Let's see, Paris almost stretching it to the lead as Camille comes into the pits now. 7/10 up to Paris. That means that Soren will get the DRS but will be far behind. But Kevin right behind us. Soren goes into the pits. Kevin almost going with him in. Camille on to the soft tyres. What will Soren be going on to? Soren will be going on to possibly also the soft tyre. Let's see once that graphic changed. Yes, he will. So that means that all the drivers we're seeing out on track now will be going to the end. And we might be able to see some fantastic racing. But further behind, Warren going for the move on Scrippy there. Up into 6th place, Scrippy down in 7th. But further behind, Tom going on the move on Calvin there. Tom up into 9th place. So fantastic battling we're seeing for the drivers now. As almost everyone, I forgot Brownie of course still in the lead there. He'll be coming in soon, but he is getting caught quite quickly by Paris, almost 2 seconds there, just, or 2/10 just in the last sector there. So he will be losing quite a bit of time going down the field.
I bet your Soren's kicking himself and not deciding to come into the pits. You know, when he darted to the inside, obviously it was a defensive move, but maybe he was thinking of going into the pits as well. If he did, with that virtual safety car, he'd be in a much better position than he is right now. As it is, he's down in 13th, 6 seconds behind Failer, who's also 6 seconds behind Camille, who's around a second behind Calvin, and he's 13th outside the points. So, unfortunately, that two-stop strategy looks like it hasn't worked in the AlphaTauri's favour. Although we could be seeing a safety car if some of these drivers get involved in said incidents. Let's look at Warren now, darting to the outside, trying to get past Andonetto, who we've seen being very aggressive in his moves in the Mercedes, but there's nothing he can do to prevent the medium-stricken Haas from getting ahead up into P4 in today's Grand Prix. Warren is in brilliant shape to potentially win the Grand Prix or get a podium or whatnot. Came 6th in Australia last time out, and is getting close to the drivers in front, one of which being his teammates, who of course now leads the Grand Prix for the first time since before the pit stops. I don't think we'll be seeing any more drivers coming into the pits. If they will, it'll be for fastest lap or for potential incidents, as that's Calvin actually getting passed by Camille in P9. Camille on those soft compound tyres. It's a stretch, but maybe he can see himself on the podium today. And obviously he'll be lightning quick on those soft compound tyres, but obviously we'll be stuck battling with drivers and, you know, like Tom and Kimmy's won't give up fights that easily, although you can see just how quick he is in the corners. He might not even need the DRS down towards the particular braking zones of 1, 4 and also 12. See, he nearly locks up there. Well, he did lock up, nearly went into the back of Tom 97. Further ahead, can Kevin potentially get that move out, beforehand? Before the pit
goes
stop,
for it.
Take any move. Never mind. Kevin now tries to get past him. Can't quite do so. But yeah, as I was saying in the early stage of the race, gents, Kevin didn't want to make his move at the start of the race. He wants to make a move at the end, and he's doing just that, putting heaps of pressure on Paris. Paris holding firm, though, still in the lead of the Grand Prix, and when he so desperately wanted after last time out, where he won the race on track, but due to the nature of the penalties, couldn't quite do so. He's in the clear at the moment, but there's still 7 laps to go.
Yeah, and as further behind, we saw Camille on those soft tyres do a crazy double overtake. Kimmy's and Tom got locked in battling into 1 and 2, meaning that they didn't get the Beck's exit out up to the straight up to 4, and that meant that just Camille was able to take those positions, as Kevin they're close to taking Paris on that straight there. But let's see, as they're coming on to sector 3, it's very close, but right behind they have Alicia on just 4 laps better tyres. Also the hard tyres, you have to remember. But let's see there, as Paris tried going defensive, but Kevin followed him back onto the racing line. But Alicia is right behind them as they're now coming onto the straight. I think Kevin will be taking it with the DRS down to turn 1, but let's see. It was 2/10 at the start of the straight. There goes Kevin with the DRS going very far to the right, trying to avoid Paris going defensive on. Look at Alicia behind. He doesn't go for the move. Failer crashed out. As still just yellow flags, no safety car for that. But Kevin isn't able to get Paris. Paris though with the DRS down the next straight, which is interesting. Alicia, is he able to get the pass on Kevin? No. Kevin just in that hole now. As Alicia has caught up to this battle quite a bit. He's even closer than he was before. But look behind, Warren is now within the second on Alicia on those used medium tyres. It'll be very interesting to see what he'll be able to do come the final laps of this Grand Prix. Warren will have the DRS on those quicker tyres he is on. But what about Alicia? What about Kevin? What about Paris? None of them wanting to quite go for the move. But they do it even though there Kevin still stays behind Paris. Alicia stays in 3rd. Warren stays in 4th. Positions aren't really changing right now, but it is so close for the race lead and the final podium positions.
We say that, but Camille has just surged past Scrippy down towards turn 12, and now he's in the fray for the race win on those soft compound tyres. He's only surpassed 2 laps. They can get to the end, and he could be extremely quick. Watch out for the McLaren driver surging his way through. As Kevin, attempt number 3 for the racing points. No, backs out of it on the last second. So this is giving even more time for Camille and Scrippy right behind as they just stay behind one another in formation. 1 and 2, Paris and Kevin, like they have been for the majority of this race. Alessio tucked him right behind, and Warren on those fresh medium tyres is definitely right in the hunt. Andrea in 5th place, and then Camille obviously in 6th. Scrippy falling back a little bit further behind, and then it's Tom 97 leading the train of a few cars for P8. But I don't think they'll be getting involved, even with Tom's fresher, hard tyres. I don't think he'll be able to catch up, unless all the drivers in front get involved in absolute melee and mayhem. But it's not. I mean, I hope we get some good action to the final few laps of the Grand Prix. And as I said before, the race will come alive in the final stage of the Grand Prix, and has it just. We have 6 drivers separated by 1.9 seconds as we approach the final 5 laps of this Grand Prix, and any of these 6 drivers, well, barring penalties, could win this Grand Prix, gents.
Yeah, and look at Camille, he has joined the back of this train now. Everybody has DRS on each other, except for Paris at the front. He won't. Look at them, all opening the DRS, coming from behind. Here goes Camille on Andinator. Is he able to get the move? They're going side by side now into turn 1. They will. Look at that, Camille going for the move. They all lock up a bit, but Camille has the move up into P5. Then, what about on Warren now? Will he be able to go up into P4 on the next straight? It doesn't look like it. He'll just have to stick behind. Kevin still sticks behind. Alicia sticks behind. Warren isn't able to challenge further up ahead. But look at that, changing their lines a bit, coming through here to try and just get that perfect exit. But yeah, let's look at Camille here on Warren. He's able to go for the move there, just sticks his nose in, but just isn't able to stick it in there enough to get the traction down properly. Let's look down on the back straight. Oh, there's a bit of contact there as Camille touches Warren, but that opens the DRS further ahead. They're going defensive on each other. The same does Warren on Camille, but he's not able to go for the move on Warren. Further ahead, Alicia sticks behind, as he has done so many laps before. But now look at Camille, he's very close to Warren, able to go for the move. Yes, he is in the braking zone there, coming into 13. Then he will be, he'll actually be under attack just a second there from Warren again, but it looks like he's able to set his eyes on for Alicia for P3. So Camille almost onto the podium now, but look at Kevin. 2 tenths, 3 tenths onto the straight. Is he able to get Paris in this time? It doesn't look like it, but look at Alicia coming from behind in 3rd place. Is it a double overtake? I think it is. Going for the lead on lap 26. They're 3 wide in turn 2. Then into turn 3. None of them getting the best exit. Look at Camille going for the lead. They're 3 wide coming now down into turn 4. Camille on the inside. No, it'll be Alicia. Alicia taking the lead there, but look at Camille in 2nd place. Camille in 2nd place on soft tyres. Alicia in the lead. Paris down to 3rd place, but Alicia coming up into the lead on 12 lap old hard tyres. But look at Camille there again. Will he be able to go for the move on the back straight? I don't think it'll be the same position as we saw last lap. No, it won't. There Camille opens the DRS on Alicia. Is he able to go for the move? I don't know. Alicia not getting the best exit there, not able to get the traction down. Further behind we're seeing battling, but let's just follow this. 2 tenths from Alicia down to Camille. It is so close, but they went 4 wide. Coming down the straight, there's contact there. A bit of pushing from Camille, but he's able to go up into 1st place on lap 26. Amazing battling we're seeing here in the closing stage of the Grand Prix. Will Alicia now be able to go for the move into turn 1? They're now coming down the straight, but look behind Paris. He'll be eager to go for the move as well. He got pushed off the 1st place on the last lap, but look at Camille, he's going defensive. What about Alicia? Now Paris coming from behind. He's not able to go, but there's a bit of pushing again. That meant Alicia got a bit better exit. Then Camille, he has the DRS, but Camille on the fresher, soft tyres, he's able to just get a bit more traction out of the corners, and he stays up in first place here as we come into the second sector with just about 3 laps to go of this Grand Prix. What have we just witnessed in the last couple of laps?
The big thing here to take from this is that Camille has no penalties. The only drivers without penalties too is Paris and Andernator. The rest have penalties of some sort, whether it be pit lane penalties or just corner cutting penalties. So Camille, just like last time out, I mean, he's got the lead by just on merit. He's got the lead on track from 13th on the grid. 13th. He's made this hard to soft strategy work tremendously, and has capitalised on each and every one of the driver's woes to plummet himself up to P1. Alessio is the only driver who can catch him at the moment, because Paris is now, well, for a moment there, was outside of DRS range, and hasn't got DRS himself. So he's now going to come under heaps of pressure from Kevin behind. And just like a few laps ago when Paris and Kevin were battling out for P1 and P2 with no DRS to Paris, this time they're doing it once again with a P3 and P4. As the other Haas driver of Warren trying to find a move past Andernator in the battle of a P5 just behind. Yeah, Alessio is very close to Camille, but with Alessio's penalty, Camille doesn't have to worry too much. His task at hand, just like the same time 7 days ago, is to just avoid penalties, and the race win is his. And what a waste it would be. I mean, he deserved the race last week in a wet to dry race, but this has been a completely different turn of events. But he's still somehow managed to be first on the timing boards. But we still have a lap and a bit to go of this race, and Alessio is still right there with him. But yeah, they've completely left Paris and the rest in their dust. Paris now 1.7 seconds behind, and if anything, his podium position looks a little bit in doubt. Can Kevin finally get past the Haas driver, who he's seen too much of the Haas driver's rear wing for the Racing Point's liking in today's Grand Prix? As that's Soren getting a 3-second time penalty. Soren actually is, well, he's only a second behind the drivers ahead of him. So if there was more melee and more mayhem ahead, he might have been thinking a better result. Here goes Alessio.
Yeah, look
try
at
and get
Alessio.
the lead back, and he has got the lead back. But of course, due to the penalty, he won't win the race on. Well, we'll win the race on track, but not by virtue of penalties. But Camille, with those softer tyres, will be feeling a little bit now with 8 lap size. Wow, a lot of changing positions there from Alessio. Camille tries to go around the outside, but he knows task at hand is not to overtake the Ferrari driver. It's to stay behind him, and it's race win number 2 for the Polish driver in the McLaren.
Yeah, that might be, but I think he wants to get it on track. I just think he does. You could see it down the straight. He didn't close the DRS. He didn't go out of overtake mode. He wanted it. He wanted to go for the move. So let's see here on the final lap, as he came up into the first couple of positions by just crazy turns of events into turn 1, going for the double overtake. And then down the back straight into turn 4, you just saw 4 drivers battling, almost going 4 wide as they came into turn 4, and then through the S's, just sliding it through, and then coming up and through into turn 1 on the other DRS straight. But now, as we're coming up to the flag, Alicia will take the win on track, but behind, Camille has stayed clean and will take the race win for the 2nd time in a row, again on penalties, but he did have it on track just 1 lap ago, as the positions just behind just got changed around. But Camille, our race winner, once again on penalties, and the game awards him with driver of the day with that that fantastic avatar of his. But let's see how the positions ended completely at the end there, as he comes out dancing once again like he did 7 days ago in Australia, in Melbourne. once again at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Alicio takes second place.
Yeah, and once again, it's Paris falling on the death right again. Could have won last time out, didn't. Could have won this time out, didn't. But it is another podium to add to Paris' collection. That means that Camille has extended his championship lead to 17 points, which is a pretty hefty lead, considering there's only been 2 races. But yeah, the full 50 points out of 50 for Camille. A perfect opening 2 rounds. And he'll be looking to continue that form. Can it be the turn of the Polish driver? There's been a lot of Poles who's been involved in AOR, like Hypers, who hasn't been able to win the title before. But maybe it's a turn for Camille. Take the crown for Poland. And but yeah, there's still a long way to go. We're not even we've just surpassed 1/11th of the season. We've still got 20 more rounds to go. So a normal season still hasn't even got underway. By this time of the year, but yeah, fantastic race as always in Bahrain, and thoroughly enjoyable race. Hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Bahrain always delivers.
Yeah, you must say, at the end on penalties as he did last week, but he did get up there from 13th on the grid by just starting on the hard tyres and then going on to a set of soft tyres towards the end of the Grand Prix and just caving his way through the field, like just crazy and amazing driven by Camille. But as we have to round off here from Sakir, from Bahrain, it is time to end. But next week, just 7 days from now, we hope to be back with the same amount of amazing races, and we'll be back with a new track to the F1 calendar. We'll be here with the Vietnam Grand Prix from the Hanoi Street Circuit. But we will see you in 1 week, same place, same time, and we hope you've enjoyed it tonight just as much as we did. But we'll see you next week. So have a good one and take care.